No, I'm not afraid of death at all. And, I'm not going to wish it on myself, but I'm looking forward to the day that it happens. I have so many stories and so many compounders that let me know that it's far more than serendipity. So decide for yourself what you think about what it is that I have to say. And there are going to be those of you that think I'm a liar, or I'm crazy, or that I'm telling the truth. And I do promise you this, I only tell the truth. To do anything less than the truth is a fucking waste of time.
Well,
are we good to go?
I guess.
Is it on?
I hope so.
They say that, and public speaking is the most terrifying thing. Which camera am I looking at?
No, you're talking to me.
Oh, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, having a conversation just like normal.
Okay. Most people, public speaking is the greatest fear. And there was a survey that said people would rather be eaten by a shark than have to speak in public. And I feel that way about it too. And there aren't any sharks around. So I guess I'm just going to have to move forward.
Well, I mean, really. Oh, you know what? I got a great idea. Let's do a shot of tequila.
Okay.
I'll grab it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with what I just did, is there?
Nope. This is great. This is organic right here.
Will you be editing it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Get the big tall bottle.
Big tall bottle.
And it's still filming?
Yep.
Okay.
The 1942.
So my son is getting the tequila, and a little liquid courage goes a long way. So hopefully it will relax me a little bit and help me to share some information that I think is really important. Sam, you're blocking my camera.
There's more than one. Oh shit. No, so like really the whole point of this was like when I was really young, I remember you just talking to us and me and my friends on car trips and stuff.
Sure.
We were all captivated by what you had to say, and it was just really like philosophical things, like learning how to conduct yourself.
I made all that shit up.
Well, I mean, isn't everything made up?
Yeah, indeed. What is a belief? It's nothing more than guessing at a truth that you prefer. So a lot of people say that they believe in things, but it's all a bunch of guesswork. Oh, cheers.
Here's to exploring knowledge.
Yeah. Here's to the truth, and here's to something that maybe you haven't seen anything quite like before. I don't play it by any particular set of rules. I make shit up as I go, and I say shit a lot. So cheers. I love you, son.
Love you, Papa.
Don Julio, 1942. I highly recommend it. Okay.
Well, yeah, so basis, yeah, I would love to have this for myself even, but I mean, the things that you've told me have resonated and like compounded over the years throughout my life. Mm-hmm. And I talk to people, like I've even talked to life coaches, and they're like, where the fuck are you getting this stuff? I mean, shit my dad said to me or my mom said to me. And I would love to be able to share that with the world and, just have this for myself for future purposes.
Yeah. It's been, I'm approaching 70 years old. So, hopefully if you live right, you get wiser as you get older. And I've had so many things happen to me in my life, as you know, that seem to defy the laws of gravity, if you will. It's happened so often now that I've come to the realization that synchronicity is an operating system, and there's no such thing as magic. Magic is simply things that happen on a higher platform. And when you grow spiritually and you get to that higher platform, you will have things happen to you that will look like magic to other people. But in fact, it's just a higher operating system. There really is no such thing as magic.
And once you really start understanding it, you really know how to like work with it.
Oh yes, once you've done this a number of times, every single time you do it again, it becomes more and more of an amplifier, because you move into knowing, and knowing is the great amplifier. You know, it's like you have like some things that seem like miraculous, but then it happens and happens and happens and happens again throughout your lifetime. And then it almost becomes like your operating system, where you can wish for things and they show up almost immediately. And when you try and tell, it depends on who you tell. Like, I'm talking to all you folks, and there are going to be those of you that think I'm a liar, or I'm crazy, or that I'm telling the truth. And I do promise you this, I only tell the truth. To do anything less than the truth is a fucking waste of time. And I just don't move in those waters. I don't swim in those waters. It would be a waste of my time and your time. So decide for yourself what you think about what it is that I have to say. I have so many stories and so many compounders that let me know that it's far more than serendipity, and that I'm moving in an operating system that is on a much higher plane than most people are used to. And that's why I said some people are going to think I'm full of shit or a liar. But
yeah, one of my favorite quotes is, smart motherfuckers seem like crazy motherfuckers to dumb motherfuckers.
That's a good one. And you having said that, I will probably use that sometime in the future, because I am a great plagiarizer. And I won't take the time to tell you who I'm plagiarizing from.
And then you embellish, yeah.
And you know, I can color my world, but I'm not going to make shit up.
Yeah, true. Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I see myself in all things, and because I believe that the one is all and the all is one, and that it's all the same energetic that's going around. And you know, in Star Wars, they called it the Force, and I like that, but it sounds a little pushy. So I call it what?
Is the Force a little pushy?
It's a little pushy, you know, forcing you. So I like to refer to God as Source, because God is a very contentious word, and it's been the catalyst for much unhappiness on our planet, because everybody has a different idea of what God is. Source, though,
yeah.
Source is a very neutral thing that everybody can get on board with. It's the one energy that is me and you in all things.
Yeah, and we've talked about too how, you know, as soon as you attach a word to something, it diminishes what it is. You know, you have this amazing, beautiful tree. As soon as you call it a tree, you're kind of putting it in a box. And
well,
you're not looking at it for what it really truly.
You've really narrowed it.
Yes,
to call it something, because it really. It is just that thing that you're looking at. It doesn't need a name, and it doesn't call itself a tree. Right. I mean, we use these things for identification purposes, but when I meditate out in nature or anything, there are no rocks and there are no trees. There is only this space that I am in with all these other energetics.
Plane of existence,
everything is energy. And all you have to do is match the frequency of the reality you want, and you can't help but get that reality energetically. And I didn't say that, Einstein said that. But all the great people of the world, they know that everything is energy.
Right.
So, you know, what are you gonna do with energy? You have a certain situation that comes up, and you can love it or you can hate it, or you can just look at it for what it is. Everything is a neutral prop until you give it agency. So, you know, somebody says, fuck you, and most people would respond with, fuck you back. But the truth of the matter is, you have a choice in there. See, when somebody challenges you like that, You don't have to challenge them back. It's a neutral prop, so you can decide, I'm not going to swim in those waters, because for me to say fuck you back puts me in that same unhappy place that you're in. So I'm going to take that neutral prop and say, okay, fuck me. Right?
Right, yeah.
And that might make them laugh.
Right.
You know, and they might get off on that. It might change the whole energetic.
Yeah.
But you either happen to life or life happens to you. So don't always be immediately responsive with negative, and remember that you get a choice.
Yeah, so let's kind of start small and work our way up. So what's the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is really easy. It's just to give life meaning. It's not, it can be anything. So what do you want your world to look like? Like I said, it's a neutral prop, and how do you want to color your world? What kind of energetic space do you want to move in? You actually get to choose that. Just because, you know, you may have somebody that is a good friend, and then all of a sudden you do something and they don't like you anymore. And most people would just automatically not like them. But if I like somebody and they decide they don't like me, I still like them. I'm not going to let that be a common denominator and be reactionary in that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to start thinking outside the box, and you have to analyze everything that shows up in your field and say, why is this here? Because when you're moving in a certain energetic on a certain plane, things will show up that are like energy. You know, my mom always used to say, water seeks its own level. So,
well, it kind of goes back to the, you know, match the frequency you want.
Yeah. So, you know, you just have to decide what's important to you, and if there are situations and people that you don't like, you have to let go of that and move into something that's more attractive. And when you are brave enough to move away from the things that you're used to, you change the view. And when you change the view, you change the energetic. And when you change the energetic, you change your life. So if you start like saying, you know, I'm not going to hang around with these negative people, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hang around with these positive people. Well, and when you start doing that, those negative people will not literally disappear, but they will figuratively disappear. They won't show up in your life anymore. This other energy is going to show up. And what comes with that other energy is a whole new set of circumstances. Things that never happened to you before are going to begin to start moving into that energetic that you're now a part of.
Do you have an experience of yours that would be a good example of that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've got several hundred.
Yeah, oh, convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what would be a good example of that? Like,
okay. Not long ago, I love flowers. Flowers are my drug. Flowers are my heroin,
yeah,
as I like to say.
Yeah.
So, and it's always been that way for me. Ooh, I shouldn't touch that. So I wanted flowers for the house. So I went down to get some at the local grocery store, and they had some really nice flowers, and they were in these, you know, they come in these cellophane wrappers. So I picked the ones that I like, and I was very excited about it. And I got them home, and when I took the cellophane wrapper off, which was colored, I realized that the stems were all rotted, and that I didn't get my value. You know, I had gone down to the store and expected to get these really beautiful flowers, and they were beautiful on top, but the stems were bad. So I knew that they would not last long. And I immediately felt angry. Like, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. And I have learned to recognize adversity. I created a trigger for adversity when I was in my early 20s. And I've gotten so familiar with it, that's become part of who I am. So as soon as I felt that negative vibe, I started laughing and said, "Oh, I see you, negativity, and I'm not going to swim in those waters because I'm too selfish to want to be negative. So I'm going to have some fun with this." So I went back to the store and went across the parking lot and went in and showed them to the woman, and she was very upset that I had gotten an inferior product. And she gave me another bunch. And so I said to her, "Do we need to, let's open them up and be sure, you know?" And she said, "Okay, look, let's, you know, I know these are good. You know, they're, the other ones were like older, they were almost getting ready to go out the door. But these are fresh." So I took them home on her word. And when I got them home, it was the exact same thing. The stems were rotted. So now I got even more excited about not being upset, and because I knew the universe was playing with me. The universe tests you. It's like, "Oh, you don't get upset? Well, it starts throwing shit at you." So now I got even more excited about getting really good flowers. So I went back and I went in and I showed her, and she was like so verklempt and so embarrassed. "I'm going to talk to my supplier, you know, blah, blah, blah." So she said, "I've got some in the back freezer." She said, "Come with me." And she took me across the supermarket and opened up this big door. And here's all these flowers that aren't even supposed to go out on the floor for another week. And she says, "I know these are good." And I said, "Okay, well, let's just a little insurance." And she goes, "These are not even going out on the floor for another week. We just got these in. These are perfect." And it was kind of weird that she didn't want to open them up, but I was in a really good mood, and I trusted her, and I took them home, and lo and behold, it was the exact same problem, right? So now I'm even. You know, I'm so not moving into anger I'm doing the exact opposite thing. I'm feeling even more and more playful because I'm going to go back there and I'm going to get twice as many flowers.
And you're going to be like,
"Oh, I'm
here we go."
I'm going to get them free, man.
Yeah.
Because she owes me now, right?
All right.
So I get out of the car and I start walking across the parking lot, and I hear behind me, I hear, "Excuse me, sir." And so I turned around and I looked, and here comes this young man. He was probably well over 6 foot, and he comes sauntering up to me, and it was the strangest thing. And I have a lot of really strange occurrences.
Fuck yeah, you do.
So he says, "Would you please buy me?" And I heard that absolutely as clear as a bell. "Would you please buy me?" And then he said 5 more words, or whatever they were, and it just sounded like garbled gibberish. So immediately I'm like, okay, something's going on. What is this? This is weird, because he just like went out of using regular language into something else. So I said, "I'm sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing. Would you mind repeating that?" And he said, "Would you?" And then he said, with a little bit more sternness in his voice, he says, "Would you please buy me blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, wow, that happened twice. That is really bizarre. What is going on here? And so I said, "Look, I'm old, I'm deaf, I don't know what you want. And so I don't think I can help you, you know, talk louder." And he goes, "Would you please buy me?" And he lifts up his shirt and shows me his gun. Okay, so I'm like, he has a gun. And so I looked at him, I said, "You have a gun? What are you going to do with that?" And he immediately went from, and he put his hand on it and he kind of leaned into me and looked at me. And you know, like I said, "What do you know? You have a gun. What are you going to do with that?" And he got so freaked out because he needed my fear to accomplish what it was he wanted to do. Whatever he wanted to get. I know. I laughed in his face. I was like, I was really in a playful mood with the flowers, and this was like a distraction. And so he started looking around, and again, and then he's kind of like, I want you to buy me, and it's that blah 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 thing again. And I just looked at him, and I could see the fear. He needed me to be afraid, and he became afraid. And at that point, he became powerless, and he just took off. So I was like, wow, that was really weird shit. I don't know what he said.
Yeah.
He was like speaking in another language, and so I go back in. And I start leaning, into the lady, saying, "Hey, I deserve some free flowers like this." I said, "And I almost just got shot in your parking lot," and she just I don't even think she must just thought I was crazy, because she didn't give it any credence or anything. And so I just said, "Look, this is my third time here." I went, and she was like, "You're right. You deserve a lot of flowers." So my $30 bouquet turned into a $60 bouquet. And I was very excited about that. And the other thing was, kind of fun, kind of interesting, like, wow, that was weird. So I come home, and my wife's like, "Oh, you finally got your flowers, and they look really nice." I said, "No, I can't believe it, but look how beautiful these flowers is, and there was nothing wrong with them." And I said, "Oh yeah, and while I was there, like, this guy pulled a gun on me in the parking lot." She turns around and looks at me and says, "You didn't lead with that?"
Oh yeah. By the way,
a man tried. But that's how little it meant to me.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of playful mood that I was in. Is that I don't know. It's just I was in zero fear. I was absolutely in zero fear. I was just thinking about wanting flowers, and here comes this goofy guy, and he runs away.
Yeah.
And when I tell people, almost everybody I tell that story to, I get that reaction when I say he has a gun, and they're like, "Oh," you know what I mean? And they react almost like most people would. But I don't move in fear. So it didn't really occur to me. And I wasn't afraid of him.
Yeah.
I just wasn't afraid of him. It's just some stupid kid with a gun,
Right. And fear seems to be like a really easy operating system to turn to.
It's super low vibe.
But it's just like, it's just so easy. But it seems like kind of like getting over that basic human instinct of wanting, preserving your own life and not wanting to die.
Right.
But I think once you have the understanding you have with Source and everything, like, are you afraid of death?
No, I'm not afraid of death at all. Death is like this huge part of life. Everybody does it. And, I'm not going to wish it on myself, but I'm looking forward to the day that it happens, so that I can move into that next energy and see what that looks like. And if it's not there, well, I ain't gonna know anyway. So,
Right.
I'm not going to lose anything.
Or you're going to be burning and tortured for all of eternity.
I know, what a bunch of nonsense.
I know, I don't believe
Those
any
are
of
just
that.
children's fairy tales.
Yeah.
Those are just stories that religions use to keep people in line. They use fear. So anyway, I'll tell you another story, and it's kind of an interesting story because it has to do with you. And you called me and said that you wanted a mixer for the new house.
Oh yeah.
And
Like those big
so
ones
I
that
got
drop in.
so yeah, it was an Oster mixer. And the only reason I thought of that was because we had when we were kids, and ours was white. And I was trying to be realistic about what it was I wanted to manifest. So it was like, am I going to manifest something brand new in the box? It didn't seem realistic.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I told my wife, I said, let's go to St. Vincent de Paul and let's manifest a mixer. And my wife knows I'm a manifester, and she is also in her own right.
But man, you really have quite an impressive power. I mean, your friends even say, "Oh, this is my friend John Stabile. He shits ice cream." Mm-hmm. But yeah, go on. You're looking for this mixer for me.
So yeah, so I'm looking. So I want to get it. I take my wife with. I take your mom with me, and we go to St. Vincent de Paul, and we go in and we start looking around. And I know that the universe doesn't always give you what you want in the way that you expect to get it, and it's good to know that, because you want to let it come to you. And the options could be 360. If you expect to get it in one place just the way you want it, that's a pretty big call.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless, I know that anything can happen. So I'm looking for a white Oster mixer, and we go in and we start looking around, and it's like, okay, so it's not here, but it's somewhere else. And I know that it's coming to me. I just don't know who, what, how, where, why, or when. But when you move into belief and knowing, it's those kind of things. Are knowing is really, really powerful, and your ability to manifest gets very, very much enhanced when you move into knowing. So I knew I'd find it somewhere else. And I was delighted that I didn't find it, because now the search goes on, the hunt goes on. So we get in the car, and I back out, and another car, SUV, pulls in, and normally the car pulls in, so you take off. And my wife, Sue, looks at me and says, "Go," and I said, "No," and I put it in park, and I just sat there, and the woman got out of the car. And she walked around, and she opened up her hatch, and there was the white Oster mixer. And she looks at me and goes, "How the fuck do you do that?" I said, "I don't fucking know."
No, and you honk? And the lady turned around and
Oh,
just
no, I didn't even honk. I just looked at her. There it was. And she had a whole a car full of stuff. And the mixer was right up front and center. So I just looked at her, and she seemed like she straightened up just a little bit and turned around and looked at me, and I pointed at it, and then she pointed at it, and I nodded, and she picked it up and she brought it over to me, and I rolled my window down and she handed it to me, and this is the bump. This is how you know that you're not working in serendipity, which is just chance, but rather synchronicity. She says to me, "I have another one just like it in the car. Do you want that one too?" See, now I was hoping to find a white Oster mixer, and the universe gave her two to bring to me so that I would know that that was not by chance and it could not be serendipity, because it amplified by having two of them.
Yeah, it was just like the time you went to go get Mama Kuan Yin statue. You went to the first place, didn't find it. Went to the second place, found it.
No. Right? I went to the first place. She called me. I was down here in Sedona, and she was up in Flagstaff, and she called and said, it's like garage sale day, and I would really love to have a 3-foot concrete Kuan Yin. So I got really excited again about having a quest to be able to manifest something. So I sat on the couch and I looked out at the beautiful view in Sedona. I said, "Okay, let's have some fun. Let's go find a 3-foot concrete Kuan Yin." And so I went down. I got in my car. I went down the street. Right away, there was a sign for a garage sale, and I went in. And as soon as I entered the property, I saw something that looked like a Kuan Yin, and as I got closer, it was about an 18-inch hand-carved statue of Kuan Yin. And I'm like, well, that's not too bad. First thing I see is a Kuan Yin. So I run over and I grab it before somebody else can, and I get online with it to buy it. And there's two women behind me, and as I'm standing there, the woman behind me goes, "You like Kuan Yin?" And I said, "Well, I don't know that much about her, but my wife wanted me to get her one." And she said, "Well, I'm having an estate sale next week, and I have a 3-foot concrete Kuan Yin. Would you be interested?" So now I'm like, oh my God. I got Kuan Yin in my hand, the 3-foot concrete one that I wanted. It just showed up. And the woman behind her says, "Pardon me, but," she said, "would you like to meet her?" She said, I've been channeling Kuan Yin for 40 years. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm swimming in Kuan Yins. It was like the trifecta of Kuan Yins.
And that was all just directing your focus and intention.
Yeah, and again, it was the bump I get, that amplifier, that I went in looking for one, and I got 3 in the very first place that I went to.
Yeah, and that's not even the most wild of your stories.
No, I have other stories where the odds are almost astronomical.
Basically impossible.
Yeah, basically impossible. Right.
Pretty much impossible.
So, like I said, I have many of those, and
well, how can other people do this?
Well,
what's
you
the
know,
trick
as
and the
the
nuances?
thing is that I was told that this is a gift, and that everyone is given a gift when they come onto the planet, and anyone can learn how to do that. But some people
Just more
want to
adept.
be artists. Some people want to be musicians. Some people want to be scientists. Some people want to put seeds in the ground and be farmers. So a lot of people just want to be in service in any way they can to other people. And they don't know why. Because nature is, the metaphor I use is it's like a wheel. And the only way a wheel can turn is if all the spokes are tight and they're all placed in just the right position. So, you know, some of those spokes are doctors, and some are lawyers, and some are farmers, and some are artists. And this is the gift that you get. And my gift was the gift of manifestation. So, and I didn't know I had it until I got older, and it started happening all the time. And then the more it happens, the more powerful it gets.
Yeah.
Right.
But anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
But man,
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody can do it.
But you have to be able to
fucking mind blowing.
I mean, you know, it's like people. You know, when I started getting into metaphysical stuff, people say you have to do the work, and I didn't know what the hell that meant. You know, they say you have to go inside. I'm like in another room. You know, I mean, I really didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
And but what it is you have to start reading all the metaphysical books, and you have to start, you know, watching Gaia, and you have to start learning about human history and all the amazing things that we've been able to accomplish. And, you know, you have to build this library of spirituality, if you will. You know, that's spirituality is just one moniker. And it's one that it's used to easily identify what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But again, like we talked about trees and names and narrowing the scope of things, it's just life.
Yeah.
So I just like to look at it as it's just life, and focus on what you want.
Yeah.
And the more you focus on it, the more it will become enhanced, and the more it will become an amplifier. So I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is just something to think about in between until we move along. And this is a takeaway thing that I like to talk to people about and leave them with.
Yeah, we hit about 30 minutes. We just hit 30 minutes, so yeah, this is a good opportunity
really?
to wrap up. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a quick 30 minutes, right?
Wow.
Went fucking fast.
Wow.
Yeah, so we could take a break and then do another.
Okay, so if you have a piece of paper and a pen, I want you to write this down, and you can look at it and contemplate on it. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and the first one is everything nature? And I want you to spend some time with that idea, and you'd have to ask yourself what exists outside of nature. And you're going to have a really hard time identifying anything that is outside of nature, because it's almost like an obvious default that everything is nature. And then the second part of this is ask yourself, is nature perfect? And
or does it make mistakes?
Yeah, it's nature is self-realizing and self-supporting. You know, the planets all like aren't bumping into each other, and the birds know how to fly south for the winter, and like there's this huge energetic that knows itself, and it is all things. So is everything nature? And then ask yourself, is nature perfect? And try and find something that is less than perfect in nature. Whether this idea of nature is negative or positive really doesn't matter. How you look at it that way, just say, you know, find something negative about nature. Find something that's out of sync with nature. And then when I think when you most people, it's almost impossible not to come to the conclusion that everything is nature, and that nature's perfect. So this is where it turns into a little bit of a mind fuck, if you will, because you have to, then you bring yourself into the picture and you say, are you nature? You know, am I nature? And again, you're going to think about that for a while, and you can only come to the conclusion that you are nature. But right before this, we said nature's perfect, and now you're nature. So therefore, by default, you have to be perfect. And that's where people really get lost in this, because nobody thinks they're perfect. And that's where the ego comes in, and we can talk about ego another time.
I think this is the perfect way to leave off and open up for the next talk, you know, all of me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Huzzah.
Huzzah! Cheers, everybody.